Now to our next news update.
So right now, more and more laws are being proposed that would really shake things up. From New York to Tennessee and Colorado to Pennsylvania, but perhaps one of the best cannabis markets in America was pretty much destroyed overnight. Earlier this year, Michigan Democrats implemented a new weed tax, pushing the total tax on the good herb to almost 40%. And it's not hard to see why this was such a foolish move, as only 2 months later, sales have dropped, and now lawmakers are looking to cancel that very tax increase.
We're not here to make an extra penny off of an implied tax.
For Harrison Carter with NAR Cannabis in Monroe, it's been business as usual lately, even with a new 24% wholesale tax on recreational cannabis statewide. However,
there's no secret in the state of Michigan, our industry is struggling.
Data from the Michigan Cannabis Regulatory Agency says that in 2025, adult use dispensaries saw $3.17 billion in sales, $100 million less than the year before. The average price for an ounce of flower also dropped to $58.20, down more than $10 from 2024 and more than $35 from 2023. And in terms of business growth, by the end of last year, Michigan had 2,171 active cannabis licenses, 85 less than the prior year.
As Ohio builds it out and becomes more adept at marketing as Michigan is, we'll lose all those out-of-state customers.
Republican State Senator Joe Bellino Jr. says the new tax is too much burden on businesses like Carter's. The 24% tax is on top of an existing 10% excise tax and 6% sales tax, meaning dispensaries see 40% in taxes as a whole.
And you add a 24% and bam, now you're 40% above. So you got to watch it. The tax will kill a big part of the border business. That's what's going to happen. It's going to kill it.
So high taxes has been destroying legal markets since legalization became a thing. I mean, just have a look at California. Tons of local small businesses are suffering because of those high taxes. And now Michigan is following that California playbook. And they've implemented some crazy tax hikes. And it's absolutely clear to see, as according to this article, Michigan's marijuana tax experiment should be an urgent warning to other states. Do not follow that experiment. So we all understand why lawmakers implement these higher taxes. They want to generate more revenue, more taxes and more profits for the state. But when we flip the script, a lot of times these higher taxes result in lower sales. And according to this article, in an effort to raise short-term revenue, Michigan recently adopted a cannabis tax structure that's already proving economically counterproductive and strategically short-sighted. For years, Michigan was regarded as one of the most successful legal cannabis markets in America. The explanation was simple. Michigan wisely adopted one of the lowest cannabis tax rates in the entire country. Previously, they had an effective tax rate of 16%. By comparison, California's tax rate was twice as high, even approaching 40% in some cities. Now, because Michigan adopted the view that cannabis should be treated more like medicine than a vice, the taxes remained low. But now, what happened? Why is everything changing?
The controversial marijuana wholesale tax went into effect January 1st, putting an extra 24% charge on the books for distributors to pay for road work. As political reporter Remington Hernandez tells us, we're now getting a look at how the industry is being impacted as some lawmakers seek a repeal.
A bipartisan group of senators wants to see the marijuana tax structure return to what it was in 2018 when voters approved recreational use.
When the wholesale tax was introduced, analysts projected it could bring in more than $400 million. But now, new state data shows a steep drop-off in revenue from December to January when the tax took effect, from $269.2 million to $226.4 million, a 16% decline.
We might not get the revenue that was expected on the wholesale side for roads. At the same time, that will mean that revenue is going down in other sources on the excise tax and the sales tax that currently are going into other parts of funding services for people.
So you guys can see how counterintuitive this whole thing is. Lawmakers want more money. They say let's tax the stoners, increase the taxes to almost 40%. Obviously, people are like, well, I'm just going to buy less. I'm not going to hit up the dispo. Let me hit up the black market. Let me grow my own. There are tons of options. And now lawmakers see that those sales are dropping. So they're like, okay, we're actually going to lose out on the taxes. We're not going to get the generated revenue that we thought we're going to get. And what we were getting, that's actually now declining. So we're just losing all around. Maybe we should repeal and roll back the tax completely.
Republican Senator Jonathan Lindsay opposed the tax from the start. Among other things, he worries the wholesale tax is hurting business and revenue.
I have heard, especially from locals, some of them have described to me that they've already had to do layoffs or, make other adjustments that, I don't think we've seen the full magnitude of the impact yet, but it certainly has set in and already had deleterious effects.
Under Lindsay's bill, only the 10% excise tax would remain. Despite bipartisan support, Republican Joseph Aragona, who chairs the House Regulatory Reform Committee, doesn't see a future for the repeal.
It's going to be tough getting that proposal out of the Senate, number one. Number two, once it comes to the House, whether it's in my committee or appropriations, we're going to have to take a hard look and say, all right, if these dollars are supposed to be going towards roads, then kind of what do we replace it with?
Like Lindsay, Aragona doesn't support new taxes, but with a $900 million budget shortfall expected for 2028, there's not much wiggle room to replace the wholesale tax.
It was tough to get that deal done back in the fall. This is part of that deal. Do you really want to go back to the drawing board and reduce it?
And the truth is, you guys may have to do just that. Go back to the drawing board and reduce it. Because if you leave things as they are, tons of folks are no longer going to hit up the legal markets. They're going to find their medicine through alternative routes. And what I found really interesting about this whole thing is that traditionally Republicans are against legalization. They've been against the good herb for quite some time now. But we are seeing a change where Republicans are hopping on board with legalization. And on the flip side, Democrats, which you traditionally would associate with being pro-legalization, they're just taxing legal markets to death, because for them it's all about making money. It's all about taxing the stoners and using that money for their pet projects.
Aragona says there are options like taxing marijuana exports, but contends changes shouldn't be made until the budget is sorted out. Lindsay feels the state should make cuts as a replacement.
My preference is that the state of Michigan stop growing larger, live within its means. It takes enough from the people.
Even if Lindsay's bill fails to pass, the tax is still at risk as a lawsuit from the industry heads to trial seeking to stop it.
And that's just the truth about it. When lawmakers consider the good herb to be a vice rather than a medicine, they will tax it and tax it to death because they have no care, no regard, or no sympathy for those people who are actually using it. Now, another state where we may see change this year is over in Pennsylvania. It definitely feels like it's just a matter of time before they legalize recreational herb. And according to this article, legalizing in Pennsylvania would generate almost $500 million in revenue by 2028 under the governor's new plan. Now, what I found interesting about this whole thing is that the Democrat governor, Josh Shapiro, his plan for legalization does include a 20% wholesale excise tax as well as a 6% state sales tax. So that pushes the total tax to around 26%. And to me, that still seems like a relatively hefty tax, but according to this, it's all about generating profits for the state. And the truth is, we've heard mumblings about Pennsylvania being ready to legalize for at least the last year and a half. But where has it all gone? What's actually happened? Why has nothing rolled out yet? Have a look.
Governor Shapiro unveiled his state budget proposal yesterday. He touched on everything from utilities to agriculture to funding first responders.
House Democrats have been busy pushing for one of his more controversial agenda items. Harry Murphy joins us now to explain. Harry.
Alicia and Valerie, Pennsylvania House Democrats are once again calling on their colleagues in the Senate to work with them, work on adult cannabis use legislation that some Republicans are calling crazy.
The House has done its work in passing an adult use cannabis bill over to the Senate, and we need our colleagues in the Senate to finally act on it.
Pennsylvania House Democrats echoing calls from Governor Shapiro on Tuesday.
What this budget does do is finally regulate and tax skill games and pass comprehensive cannabis reform in Pennsylvania.
House Bill 1200, which was introduced by Democrats last year, is currently stuck in committee.
Now, last year, we did bring you guys the news about this very House bill, House Bill number 1200. And according to this House bill, it would have legalized recreational sales, but all the stores would have been run by the state. And that's a very dangerous situation to be in.
Senate Majority Leader Joe Pittman explaining part of the reason Republicans opposed it.
When the House Democrats passed recreational marijuana last year, and they came up with that crazy plan to have the state stores implement it, we heard nothing from the governor on whether or not he'd even sign the bill.
The proposal from PA Democrats seeks to establish publicly owned and operated cannabis shops across the state to help fuel an economic engine and implement regulations that surrounding states may not have.
Without proper controls in place, we risk turning Pennsylvania into the new playground for corporate cannabis. We have the opportunity to rein in a market that is completely deregulated in terms of potency, content, or labeling.
But critics say the money that the state would earn isn't worth the cost on PA communities.
When it comes to health care, when it comes to education, when it comes to law enforcement, when you increase access to these high potency products, you're going to have costs. It's a cost I don't want to see Pennsylvania pay.
So when it comes to legalization in Pennsylvania, I'm all for it. But the truth is, I do think that some of these smaller mom and pop shops, they definitely should have an opportunity to set up businesses rather than simply state-run shops. And recently there was a poll which was conducted in Pennsylvania, and a lot of voters agreed with that sentiment. And another poll also says that the majority of Pennsylvania voters do in fact back legalizing the good herb. Now, Pennsylvania does have legal medical herb, but not yet recreational. And when it comes to medical, they take things very seriously. And I'm going to show you guys just how seriously in a bit. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder, if you're getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club or cop some merch from our merch store. We got that new American grown hoodie, the good herb. Use that code ICANNTHC and grab it now. And if you happen to be a home gardener, try the ICANN Organics. Use the code LEGAL. It works on the bundle and the seeds.
A nondescript building, once a rag factory. Now,
it's a legal marijuana company that produces plants to help with the medical industry.
the company is Jushi, which operates in 6 states. Security manager Brian Nikoloff assures this place is secure.
I'm not allowed to say exactly how many cameras we have, but we can pretty much tell when an ant is crawling around.
From plant security to keeping the plants secure, all visitors must wear PPE from head to toe to keep outside contaminants out. That includes State Representative Abby Major, a Republican who's partnering with Democrats on a bill to legalize recreational marijuana.
Some plants are, 5-foot plants, some are about 3-foot plants.
From growing to harvesting to manufacturing to packaging to testing, they proudly call themselves control freaks.
Peace of mind of knowing that all the genetics are here coming through clean, that everything is getting testing and is regulated. So it's added peace of mind is just knowing that what you're putting in and you're inhaling and what you're eating obviously is clean.
Products are tested twice for toxins and THC levels. Even the testers are tested.
We even vet our third-party testing labs. Every single one in the state we have vetted to make sure that, their methods are validated.
And personally, I think that is one of the biggest benefits of the legal market. The testing requirements and the safety standards, those are really important because we've seen already in legal states with legal markets situations where flowers contaminated with E. coli, salmonella, and all sorts of really bad stuff. But what's really great to see is that more and more folks are hopping on board with legalization, and it's a bipartisan issue. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, a lot more folks are consuming the good herb and want to see it legalized. And according to this next clip, more people are relying on the good herb to even get through their daily routines. Have a look.
Cannabis is ingrained in my brain. So when I wake up and I get up, it's like the coffee. It's like the coffee.
Miguel LaBoy has smoked pot recreationally for more than 50 years and is also among the millions who use the drug for its medicinal benefits.
They prescribed me cannabis when I had the chemotherapy. This is my only medication, cannabis.
But compared to when LaBoy started smoking in his teens, cannabis is much more accessible and potent. And contrary to popular belief, it is possible to develop an addiction. It's known as cannabis use disorder.
And I feel guilt to this day that I upsold high-potency THC concentrates. And I remember, still to this day, selling shatter to 15-year-olds who would come in as medical patients with their mother. That's what I saw happening in the dispensary. People who were casual users like myself were all of a sudden swept up in it and consuming more and more. When I started consuming the high-potency THC concentrates, it was really altering who I was as a person. I was waking up and doing it. I was driving to the dispensary and doing it in the car before I went in there. I was doing it during the break.
For some, the positives still outweigh the negatives. The drug is cited to help with pain and anxiety, but frequent or heavy use can lead to memory and lung issues. Kyle, who was granted partial anonymity, said he used the drug to help manage panic attacks, but has felt a growing dependency.
Yeah, I smoke every day. It's the only thing that can make me relax and just actually be able to not feel like I need to do 1,000 things at once. But because of that, you get a lot lazier, the brain fog isn't super fun, and then the brain fog can only be remedied by smoking again. So it kind of creates a pretty vicious cycle.
So despite the fact that more and more folks are using the good herb on a daily basis, those are the types of reportings that we hear, and that's from the Associated Press, AP. And even when they mention some of the benefits, it's almost like they hit you a double-handed backslap and say that there are also tons of negatives that you need to be aware of. And just having a look at the comment section of that video, a lot of folks appear to agree with that very sentiment. As one person says, most Americans are addicted to alcohol, and that is a dangerous drug. Another says, so which alcohol company funded this study? Someone else goes on to say, such a BS piece of news. Propaganda for Big Pharma. Alcohol, caffeine, and sugar, those are more addictive, and they cause more health problems for Americans. This is propaganda for Big Pharma without a doubt. Cannabis is safer than alcohol. Making it legal globally would make Big Pharma collapse. Do not believe the lies. So all those comments would tend to agree. The good herb has medical benefits that simply cannot be denied, and that's probably why even in currently prohibition states like Tennessee, medical herb could be on the way. Have a look.
For years, medical marijuana bills in Tennessee have gone up in smoke, but Republican lawmakers now say a program could be just a few years away.
I would say within the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see a framework set up here in Tennessee.
It comes after the federal government announced it would move marijuana from the most serious Schedule I drug category to a Schedule III, opening the possibility of legislation for some Republicans.
My biggest objections are being resolved by the federal government right now in rescheduling cannabis and rescheduling specifically marijuana and allowing the doctors to take over and make a determination on how and if these substances could be helpful.
And that right there is something that I've said so many times in the past on this channel. President Trump's executive order to reclassify the good herb from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 could be the push that some of these currently prohibitionist states and Republican lawmakers needed to finally get on board with legalization. And to me, that's a good thing.
Republicans say the current General Assembly isn't in a place to change the law just yet, but some hope they can start taking steps toward that.
I look forward to the day in Tennessee that we've set up a framework where people aren't just getting high, but there are some very sick people who don't want to be on opiates or something that comes across from a prescription from the pharmacist. They want something natural that's safe, and we know where it came from. We know it's not been perverted or adulterated with fentanyl or anything else. It's going to happen soon. The federal government has realized that they've been in the way for a long time.
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have filed multiple medical marijuana bills this session, including a Republican-backed proposal that would launch a study into how ready Tennessee is for a medical marijuana program. In a rare move, the House just suspended the rules to move it forward to its first committee. Democrats say it's about time.
We look at the opioid crisis. We look at people who are addicted to painkillers. This is an alternative. It's one we should have invested in a long time ago.
While marijuana law reform advocates believe medical cannabis isn't a partisan issue, they say it is significant that more Republicans appear to be getting on board.
It is true, most of the support is from the Democrat side, and we would really like to show the Republicans that this is something that will benefit Tennesseans, and we can provide regulatory control to make sure that it stays in adults' hands and adults' use.
And that's exactly what we all want to see. More lawmakers on both sides of the aisle getting on board with legalization. Because the truth is, in 2026, a lot more folks do want to use medical herb, a plant which grows naturally, rather than Big Pharma's prescription drugs and opioids. Now, I do want to touch on a couple more states because there are new weed laws which are being proposed over in Colorado as well as New York. But let's start off first with New York because according to this, a new bill could bring cannabis drinks to New York liquor stores. Check it out.
In other news now, a local lawmaker is pitching new legislation that, if passed, would introduce cannabis-infused beverages to liquor stores all across New York State. One Rochester businessman is speaking out on this possible merger. Nelson Habecker has been a fixture at Rochester's East Avenue liquor store for over 40 years. Wine and spirits are his specialty. Weed drinks would be a new endeavor.
It's new to us, and I don't know how the people are going to respond to it, and I don't know how I want to respond to it, actually.
Senator Jeremy Cooney recently introduced a new bill which could allow New York liquor stores to sell cannabis-infused beverages. Those stores would only be able to stock low-dose options with a THC content of 5 milligrams or less. Owners like Habecker would have to apply for permits in order to sell them. After the legalization rollout, he says he has some concerns.
That's what worries me, is I saw the rollout of the initial cannabis in New York State, legalization of it, and it seemed like it was very difficult for it to get started. It's a give take. I don't know where they're going with it yet. So I'd like the ability to understand better so that we can proceed in a manner that works well for us.
And I do think that that's something that a lot of folks want. Clarity as to what the laws are, how they can operate, and what they can and cannot do. Because we've seen New York, when they first legalized, a lot of folks were unsure as to how things were running. There were no licenses issued, no dispensaries set up, but there were a lot of folks growing their own. And what we see is that some of these newly legalized states do look to states which have legalized for quite some time now as a roadmap as to how to proceed when it comes to rolling out their own laws. And one of those states which is legalized for over a decade now is over in Colorado. And Colorado lawmakers are now discussing proposals for more cannabis-friendly events. Because, I mean, you can get the herb, but where's the events where you can consume it? Have a look.
Today at the state capitol, lawmakers are discussing a proposition for more cannabis-friendly events.
Yeah, finding a place to legally smoke marijuana in public is scarce. Now there's a small push to make public pot-friendly gatherings more accessible. Let's go to your reporter Kennedy Cook live at the state capitol. And Kennedy, these events would have some very strict rules here.
Yeah, definitely strict rules, Brian. We're talking about House Bill 261117. It would create a temporary permit for marijuana to be consumed, however not sold or distributed on the premises. Now, to be issued a hospitality permit, the applicant must hold an active marijuana hospitality business license, apply for the hospitality permit, and pay the application fee. However, we talked about strict. There are restrictions. A marijuana hospitality business or a participating license is prohibited from operating an event for longer than 72 hours, hosting more than 15 events per year, selling, transferring, or distributing marijuana at the event premise during an event, and transferring the hospitality permit to another person. Now, that committee hearing that is scheduled for today at 1:30 p.m.
Some more 420 friendly events where folks can actually consume the good herb without fear of being prosecuted. That's fantastic. But let me know what you guys think about everything that we discussed in today's video. From the crazy Michigan tax hike that could potentially destroy the market that now lawmakers are trying to roll back, to potential legalization over in Pennsylvania as well as Tennessee, and also what's happening over in New York and Colorado. Drop your thoughts and concerns on all this in the comment section down below. Now, in our next video, something that's really mind-blowing is that the good herb was mentioned.
All right, that's our news update for today. All right,